my name is Miranda and today I'm here to discuss the new Monster High movie that premiered on Nickelodeon. So, I am really trying to watch some more kind of spooky Halloween stuff since it is the spookiest month of the year, and I figured this fit pretty perfectly because it's not only a spooky kind of thing, but also in a way a book to movie adaptation, which I'm also trying to catch up with as many of those this year as I can possibly watch. Monster High, I think when I first saw the trailer for this, it definitely was giving me like Descendants vibes. Like this was supposed to be like Nickelodeon's version of Descendants, and Monster High itself is obviously a very prolific brand that is not just new, and I think it's actually kind of impressive that it took this long for them to make a live adaptation because it lends itself so well to that format, especially in terms of like when you look at Descendants, which again was all about the descendants of fairy tale characters, both heroes and villains, whereas Monster High is about the descendants of monsters. So it's a very similar premise. The background of Monster High, like I said, it's been around since like 2010, I think is when it was created. I had first heard of it in like 2010, 2011 when it first came out because Lissy Harrison, who wrote the Click books, which I loved as a kid, like that was like my favorite series. I still remember going to Borders on Tuesdays when the new books would drop to get them. Like they knew my name. They're being like, oh, we got the Click book for you because like I loved it so much. So she wrote a few books for Monster High, and that was my first like introduction to them. And I always kind of wondered like what came first, the books or the dolls, because it just became like this huge juggernaut of a thing off of the books, like all these dolls, movies, animated series, like all this stuff. And I always wondered. So after watching the movie the other day, I looked it up to finally confirm this chicken egg situation that I had in my head. And yeah, it turns out that the Monster High brand was created by Mattel, and then they hired Lizzie to write these books. She wrote 4 and then someone else took them over, and I had, I guess you could say, the pleasure of working at Toys R Us during the height of Monster High fever. So when like all the dolls were out, when the Ever After High series was a spin-off and they were all those dolls, and like, listen, I was too old to have these dolls, right? Like to like actually like justify buying them because as I said, I was working minimum wage at Toys R Us. But I always liked the look of them. I thought it was really cool, and like I'm always a sucker for like redesigns of like famous things. So like seeing like a modern take on like Frankenstein's monster or like what like Dracula's daughter would look like, I thought was really, really cool. So as you might have known if you've taken a breeze down a doll aisle recently, Monster High hit its peak around like 2016. Sales were dropping, so they tried to reboot it apparently, which I don't remember at all. It didn't work, and in 2018 the line was canceled and discontinued. However, because capitalism gonna capitalism, Mattel was like, we can try and do this again. So in 2020, they relaunched the dolls and the series to try and do a reboot of it. This movie that came out was a part of the reboot, and I really do think that it's such a smart idea. Like I said, I think it fills that Descendants kind of hole that I guess Disney has created, you could say, because I know like they're working on more Descendant stuff. So yeah, I was excited to watch the movie just because, again, I did think it looked really cute. I'm a huge fan of Descendants. I think it's really, really interesting, and I thought the design of the movie looked really, really cool. And I do have to say, for the most part, I think it was pretty fun. I mean, it did what it accomplished to do. I think it was an hour and 30 minutes, which the older I get, the more I appreciate an hour 30-minute movie. Like, you know, like get to the point, girl. Thank you. I have places to be. I can't be thinking about all these twists and turns. Like, just get me where I'm supposed to be. So the whole premise of the movie is our main character Claudine is a half wolf, half human, and she has been accepted into Monster High, which is all for monsters and not for humans. So she has to keep the humanity side of her a secret. But now that she's getting older, when she gets into like a fight or flight mode, so when she has strong emotions, her wolf side disappears and her human side comes out. So she's in this very precarious situation where she is finally at a place that she feels like she fits in. Like she's around other monsters, she doesn't have to hide who she is, but there's still this part of her and this side of her that will not be accepted at any cost at this school. And her main mission is she discovers this guy that used to go there. This guy, I mean, you know who he is, Dr. Hyde and Jekyll, and he supposedly had made a potion that could get rid of your human side entirely. So the majority of the movie is her trying to find this and teaming up with Frankie, who is a version of Frankenstein's monster, and Dragulora, who is Dracula's daughter. So I thought it was really, really cute. I think the things that I really liked about it were the plot. I think it was very straightforward, very simple. They didn't try and over-explain things. It was like, you know, we met her, we kind of got a vibe of like what her family life was like with her dad. Her mom, I would have liked to know a bit more about, because she's like, we don't know like what happened to her or anything like that, and yet she's this very prominent figure at Monster High. It's why Claudine is kind of accepted, and everyone says like she was this great figure, but like we don't really know like what she did that made her stand out from all the other monsters. So I would have liked to bump her character up a little bit more, just because I feel like it did kind of turn into like letting the mom die to carry on the story, you know, that very like Disney-esque kind of thing. So I would have liked to learn more about her, but I really liked that they just dove into Monster High. I could see like them doing like weird like like the screen comes on and like a caption of like Dragulor, Dracula's daughter, she'll fang you, or so, you know, like the weird I'm glad they didn't do that, and I feel like it worked very, very well in terms of like the character design. Like they literally looked like the dolls. I do think the background characters, like a lot of them, they just colored their skin and slapped some wigs on them, and like I was like, not really obvious who you are, but I do think the main people looked a lot like the dolls. And I do have to say that I like, and this is again going with the dolls, I feel like I like that they do different ones. Like Claudine's love interest is the son of a Gorgon, which I feel like is not a monster that you find out a lot and stuff like that and see a lot. Like obviously we've got vampires, ghosts, witches, werewolves, like all that kind of stuff, but I liked that there was more, like there were like sirens and ghouls and gorgons and stuff like that. Like I liked that it was like a bunch of different stuff, because I think that made it feel more fun, and it also gave them a chance to do some character designs for characters and monsters that you don't typically see redesigned. Like when have you ever seen a Gorgon redesigned? And also the like enemy of this for a while, like the Mean Girl-esque thing, was the daughter of a mummy, which I thought was really cool. But I also really liked what they did with her character too, because I feel like it would have been so cliche to make her just like the like mean girl for the majority of the movie. So I liked that they had a turning point with her where she actually became friends with Claudine, and at the end like actually teamed up with her and was the one to help Claudine save the day. So I think that was really, really sweet that like they decided to make like the villain was just the villain, and like, you know, everyone started to accept Claudine for who she was at the end, and I think that was really great, and that could make it even more fun if they do sequels now that like she could be a full part of the squad and stuff like that would be really, really fun. So I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed each of the three main girls. Obviously Claudine was kind of like the first one we got introduced to and whose story was driving throughout of it, but I feel like all three girls kind of had really important distinct storylines. So Claudine's was obviously trying to figure out this whole humanity side of her. Frankie was also very relatable in that they were trying to figure out a way to bond and make like social connections and interactions, which obviously is a very hard thing to do, and especially I feel like at that age of, I mean, they were 15 days old, which was equivalent to 15 years, but you know, like starting high school, that's hard to do. And then Dragulaura's main storyline was she was practicing witchcraft, which was not allowed and would have been really shunned by her dad, and also just the like expectations from her dad to live up to what he and his family had done. So I liked that like it related to their monster kind of origin and it made sense for that, but then it was also something that could be very relatable if you take the monster out. Like, you know, like everyone's got parts of them and everyone's got, you know, pressure to fit in, and everyone's got pressure from family to live up to expectations. So it was these three very common and unifying issues that I think a lot of people could relate to, and it made the characters feel distinct and made you root for them, which was really nice. I also think the friendship was really cute and really sweet, and I loved how they worked together and supported each other, and how it was just a very supportive vibes all around, right? Like there was even like, I was expecting it to be that like Claudine's humanity came out and everyone was kind of either like upset or like hurt by her betrayal, right? That like she didn't tell them, or like they had grown up so long hearing that humans were so bad that like even if like they knew Claudine, there was still like that initial like ugh. But what I liked instead was that when Claudine ran away, Dragulaura and Frankie immediately came for her and were like, yeah, like we're not leaving you in this moment, like we need you right now, and friends don't leave each other in their hardest moments. So I thought that was really, really cute and sweet. The villain reveal I felt was pretty obvious. Like as soon as I saw him, I was like, yeah, that's gonna be the villain. I would have liked, I guess, more hints, because they were constantly talking about how like the school is alive and the school was obviously aware of who the enemy was, I guess, or maybe just like that there was an enemy. I don't know. I feel like they were aware of who it was, right? Because they were able to distinguish between like Claudine being part human and him being part human, and then like stopping when she was there. Like obviously they knew who it was. So like maybe like a little more hints, like stuff not going right around him or things like that, I think would have been fun. But overall it was a very, very good reveal. And I feel like this is the other thing too. This is what I feel like could have gone very bad if they relied over heavily on CGI, because obviously they don't have the budget for really good CGI. So I feel like what I give them credit for is they did a good job of like practical effects. Like all the girls and all the characters look very good. Like I even like how like with Deuce, is his name Deuce? That's kind of embarrassing. With him, when he has like his cap on, like you can see one snake. Like they didn't do all of them, but just one. So like it looks kind of cool and more realistic in a way. And I also like even when Mr. Como transformed, they gave him like a muscle suit instead of like trying to like do like fake kind of stuff. I think overall it was just really fun. I do think a downside to me was the songs. I know why they put the songs in, because every single movie puts a song in for Disney and Nickelodeon, but they just didn't add to the story, I think. Like I feel like in terms of like Descendants or even like Zombies, like those songs move the plot along and also have very different emotional feelings. I feel like these kind of all were the same song and just like a different vein. Like, you know, it wasn't really different kind of vibes or emotions or stuff like that. Nothing really made me like feel or like move the story along. I mean, when you think of like, oh my gosh, the space between from Descendants 2 still makes me cry every time I heard it. And like there just wasn't that connection. I think the closest they got to doing something different was the scene with Deuce and Claudine when they were having their moment. I thought that one actually felt like it was like moving the plot along, because like as he's singing she's trying to get the snake venom from him, so I feel like that was kind of cute. And I also just really liked how like it was about like this story of these monsters not liking humans, right? And being told that humans are bad, we don't trust them, nothing like that. But I liked that there was just this theme of acceptance throughout, right? Like everyone was able to just be who they were and accept who they were, right? Like Claudine and Frankie never batted an eyelash at Dragulora practicing witchcraft, and they were the first to like be like, this is so cool, and congratulate her on it. And like it gave her the confidence to be like, yeah, I am really good at this, and like I get to talk to someone about it. And Claudine being human, like no one ever really shamed her for that when Frankie found out or when Dragulora found out. Like they just immediately accepted her. And even like the scene where Claudine had to ask Deuce for snake venom, like he was just like, oh, why didn't you ask? Like I just feel like it was nice to watch something where like it didn't have those cliches of people being like misunderstandings and turning on each other and like feeling betrayed. Like I just liked how open it was, which was really, really fun. It did hint at the end at a potential sequel, which would be cool, because I do feel like it establishes it's a pretty good story, right? Like I feel like it's not up to the Descendants level in terms of what that did, because I do think there needs to be some more like emotional connection, especially if they're gonna lean so much into the songs. But I think it was just fun. I think it was fun. It was cool to look at. I think the actors did a really good job. The girl who played Claudine was giving me such Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana vibes. Just like her charisma, like the way she could handle a scene was really good. I think the three main girls had really great chemistry together. And yeah, I'd love to see more in this series. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it was just like a fun Halloween, kind of like I said, Descendant zombie-esque movie where it's just like you can just sit back, enjoy it, and it was so fun. So yeah, if you have seen the Monster High movie, I am so interested to hear your thoughts on it down below in the comments and see what you thought of all the characters and their development and their story, and if you would be interested in seeing another story for it. So yeah, I think it's just cool to see like something that started as a doll collection 10 years ago now become a live adaptation, and for all intents and purposes, in my opinion, handled the characters pretty well and handled the whole story and made the designs like they look so much like the dolls. So I really, really enjoyed it and I liked it, and I just think it was fun. So yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching this video. Please make sure to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe to my channel down below in the comments to be told when to make more videos and more spooky movie, which this is about as spooky as it's getting, guys. Like, I don't like spooky things. So when I say spooky, I mean spooky fun, not spooky scary. Okay? So yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!